Hey guys, it's King DX, and today we're going to be talking about Fighting EX Lair, which is the new spiritual successor to Street Fighter EX. Now, if you're familiar with Street Fighter EX, a few things have changed for Fighting EX Lair. Now, just so you know, we're talking specifically about the beta that just released a couple weeks ago. I really wanted to take a bunch of time to play it, so I did a lot of matches. I played with all the characters. You probably already saw that I put up a lot of different footage showcasing Skullomania, but today we're not going to be focusing on any specific character. We'll just be talking about the actual mechanics, the gameplay, graphics, overall feel of the game in general. Now myself, I was a personally pretty huge Street Fighter EX fan. Playing Fighting EX Lair has been a little bit nostalgic, but it's also been a little bit disappointing. To be honest, Fighting EX Lair right now feels more like an alpha. The beta really felt like an alpha to me. There was just too many quirks about the game and just how it moved, the mechanics, things like cross-ups where you jump over your opponent, where sometimes the character on the ground changes sides, but the character in the air never changes sides. It's just some very weird kind of physics going on in that game. There's also been times when I've gone for cross-ups and then my character changes directions, but still lands on the same original side because you can't really do a cross-up in this game. So it's really odd, really wonky. There's just a lot of things that need to be tied up. Now, to be fair, they seem to be very quick about noticing things that became problematic during the beta. For instance, people started to discover 168 hit combos with Allen and a lot of different juggles and infinites. For instance, Skullomania ended up having his own infinite as well. And they looked into it and they're patching it out. So they're aware and they're removing things that are there. Now, as far as the gameplay goes, I mean, you have your basic character archetypes where you have your Shoto character, you have your kind of, tricky mix-up command grab characters. All the things you expect from a fighting game traditionally do seem to be there. Where Fighting EX Lair suffers, it seems very slow. It just doesn't seem to have that same pace as Street Fighter EX did. Now, mind you, they're technically not the same game, but I mean, maybe I haven't played Street Fighter EX for a while, but to me, I could definitely tell that Fighting EX Lair just didn't seem like it was moving as fluidly as I would have personally liked. The air combat, the jump ins feel, like I said, wonky. The ground movement, just moving back and forth, stepping in the grab range, stepping out, also feels off as well. And the characters, while they're semi-balanced, but there are clearly some exceptions. The Gogi System, which is a system they have in place where you can augment your characters, very similar to kind of the gem system in Street Fighter Cross Tekken, or even, I guess, the Infinity Stone system in the latest Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. They all feel gimmicky, and there are some that clearly stand out a little bit better than others. The one that allows you to essentially tank a bunch of hits seems pretty OP, and I also did a video covering that as well, so hopefully that's some stuff that'll be fleshed out. Overall, if I had to rate Fighting EX Lair, the beta, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think right now I would give it, it pains me to say this, a 4. Because honestly, it did not feel like a beta. It didn't feel finished. It didn't feel flushed out. From the menus to the backgrounds to the effects. I mean, I know that stuff is a lot of stuff that can be done in, I guess you could say, post. And I'm doing air quotes here, post. But if I'm being honest, it just didn't seem like, if that's a beta, that, I mean, everything that needed to be in there, it was in there. Even the UI looked pretty crappy. Not as bad as Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, but it's still definitely needed a little bit of love. Every single part of that game just seemed like it just needed a lot more refinement. And like I said, the gameplay itself felt really stiff. Those kicks, every single move you did just felt like it was so janky, so wonky. Now, the timing was pretty tight. I was seeing, a lot of, 1-frame links, 2-frame, windows, which I don't mind. I don't have a problem with that, but that's never really been the level of execution needed for a Street Fighter EX game. So I'm not sure how traditional fans are gonna feel about Fighting EX Lair kind of having that now. Now, fans of the Street Fighter series are used to things like this, and I'm sure they might not have an issue, but I'm not 100% sure if Fighting EX Lair will be able to compare with Street Fighter V. And considering that Street Fighter V Arcade Edition will be coming out very soon, I'm not really sure if there's going to be enough to keep people really wanting to play Fighting EX Lair. I said the best case scenario is it comes out. Maybe it does a couple tournaments for the first month. We see what people feel like about it, and then we'll really be able to decide where it stands. Right now, overall experience for it, in my personal belief, is I don't think it's gonna do well. I think it's gonna kind of sail into the sunset pretty quickly, especially with games like Dragon Ball Fighter Z getting ready to come out in just about a month or two. And then, like I said, you have Street Fighter V Arcade Edition. Not really sure. And then Soul Calibur is going to be coming up as well. So it's one of those things where there's kind of a resurgence of fighting games right now. But I'm not 100% sure if Fighting EX Lair is helping that resurgence, or possibly going to be that game that kind of kills the resurgence. I love me a good fighting game, but I don't like a market oversaturated with them. And here's hoping that this game doesn't come out and essentially rock band our fighting game series that we all love. We don't want it to come out and oversaturate, you know, kind of like Guitar Hero and Rock Band did, and DJ Hero, and next thing you know, Beat Mania, and then next thing you know, all the music games just disappear, right? We don't want the same thing to happen with fighting games. It's already happened before, and we don't want history to necessarily repeat itself. So here's hoping that Fighting EX Lair, if it does come out next year, because it's scheduled to come out next year, hopefully it's definitely in the later part of 2018, and hopefully they really take some time to do some much needed polish to it. It just ultimately is a very stiff feeling game, and I don't really know whose fault that is. The characters feel very familiar. They have a lot of the same moves you're used to. They play exactly like, you would think they do. Skullomania, for example, does all the moves. I remember he does his EX Dream. I mean, his Skullo Dream. He has his Energy Ball. He has all his familiar moves. Skull Head, Skull Crusher. Everything's there. So he feels like himself. He just feels like a bulkier version of himself. He feels like Skullomania that's like gone and gotten married and had a bunch of kids. And now he's like picked up like 40 pounds and his metabolism is slowing down on him. He just doesn't feel as fluid. That's the best word I can use to describe it. So if you guys got a chance to play the beta, let me know your thoughts. And if you didn't, that's okay, because I can't 100% say you missed much. And stay tuned when the game actually does come out. I'm going to definitely make sure that I do some coverage on its final release, and hopefully the grade that I gave it will go up substantially. But if not, I mean, hey, that's just the way things are sometimes. Alright guys, I'm King DX signing off, and stay tuned and we'll have more.